Hello students, good morning. Can you hear me? Please raise your hands if you can hear me. Okay, good morning, very good. Can anyone take up the mic and speak please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Done with your breakfast people? Done with breakfast?
Yes, sir.
Biryani is it? No.
No, sir. You all did not.
I thought biryani and gulab jamun, what you told in the last class. No, is it? Okay, fine. No problem. Okay, we'll start up. So, I'll be giving you an overview about the maths question paper, what kind of, I mean, what, how many number of questions we face from each chapter, which do we take up, which we don't take up, how do we plan it out. Clear? So before going to it,
Sir.
I'll just throw some light on what Sir discussed. So in the previous session, physics sir discussed how do we face the examination, how to attempt the answer script so that we try to achieve maximum number of marks. Correct? So I'll just throw a little bit light on that and then I'll go on to the math subject. So sir was telling how do you attempt it, write down the correct question numbers and then say for example if you have to make sure whatever content that you're representing in your answer script that has to be correct. All those things was told. So before actually going into the question set, I'll just, as I told, I'll just throw a little more light. Okay, so once you receive the question paper, do you have something called as reading time if I'm not wrong for your question paper?
Yes, sir.
Any idea how much reading time you have?
15 minutes.
Good, very good. 15 minutes is the reading time. And how much time do you have to write the answer script?
3 hours.
You have 3 hours. And in case of mathematics, you're gonna attempt this, you're gonna attempt 80 marks, sir. In order to attempt 80 marks, you have 3 hours of time. This is the time frame we have. So, before going into answer script again, the reading time which we have 15 minutes. How many of you prefer to utilize the time? All of you, is it? All of you prefer to utilize
Yes,
the
sir.
time. Now, why I'm asking is, there are some set of students, say for example, what happens to some set of students is when they read out the question paper, say the question paper turns out to be tough, something of that sort. So there are chances people get tensed. Am I right? How many of you are in the category who get tensed when you, or you kind of freak out? Yes. There are some set of students? Yes, definitely. There are students. So because we have to address all kind of students, right? People who freak out, people who don't freak out. And people who don't freak out, again, there might be a reason because I don't know anything or probably I know everything, yeah? So we have all set of students. So what happens, these 15 minutes of time, it is better that each one of you actually utilize the time. And how are you utilizing the time? But again, what people who are kind of getting tense or freaking out, so somewhere you have to come out of the zone wherein you don't get tensed after looking. So that is a better option. If you feel that no, if there's a tough question, I will get tensed, then I would suggest don't go through that paper. Because what there are chances that if you get tensed, you kind of forget what you already know. You kind of forget what you already know because the question paper is tough or there are some set of questions which you are unable to crack. So that should not happen. When you enter into the examination, you should definitely be able to produce or write what you know. Clear that whatever you know should definitely be in your pocket. What you don't know is not under your control. Am I correct with that? Yeah, what is not with you or what you don't know is not under your control. No one can do anything about it. Correct? You cannot do anything in those 3 hours about something you don't know. But whatever we know, we should make sure we grab that and put it into our pockets. So that thing you have to keep in mind. So these 15 minutes, so for people who start getting tensed after looking into the paper, what I suggest is use these 15 minutes of time in order to write the important formula. We have a lot of formulas in mathematics, right? And there are enough chances that you can forget the formulas. So what I would suggest is in case you're getting tensed, as I told you, use this 15 minutes of time, write it down in the last sheet, right? Take a pencil, write all the formulas. So you have so many formulas from different chapters, correct? Be it trigonometry, be it be it complex numbers. So we have so many different chapters. We have limits and derivatives, then you have straight lines, you have conic sections. There's so many chapters, and we have so many different formulas. So a better way to do is, in case you're getting tens, don't go through the paper, just write down all the formula in the last sheet. So you have the list of formula present so that things don't go wrong. You at least have something to refer later on when you're actually solving the paper. Because again, when you're actually solving the paper, there are some instance of time wherein there is a shortage of time where you try to recall the formula. Clear? So when you have this formula somewhere at the end of your answer script written in paper, you can just quickly refer to it and start writing it. So you're somewhere saving time again. Clear? So this formula hint or the formula tip was for the people who are getting tensed after looking at the paper. But my suggestion, try not to get tensed. I know it will not happen in an overnight wherein tomorrow I'm a person where no, I'm a tension-free guy and all. No, that is not possible. It will obviously take some time, you know. So use up this 15 minutes to see what kind of problems are given where, because you definitely know that there are some tough problems given. It cannot happen that all the 80 marks will be given in a way that it's all easy. So there are definitely some questions which are tough. So you can start analyzing. So you can use this 15 minutes probably to analyze the questions which are tough. Okay, what should I do to this? What steps are involved to reach to the answer? Clear? I would not suggest, or I don't want you to use those 15 minutes to have a look at the easy questions and then, okay, this is the answer, this is the answer. No, don't do that, people. Please don't do that. Use up this 15 minutes for which kind of questions. If you're not getting tense or if you're a person who will not freak out, use up these 15 minutes to crack down the questions which are actually tough. And when I say crack down, you should at least know, okay, these are the steps involved. Don't write a detailed answer. Just write down, okay, after this step, I'm supposed to go to this step and this and so on. Say, for example, you get a question from straight lines. So in straight lines, say, for example, you have questions wherein a point is given, a perpendicular line is given. So you will know, right, if a line is perpendicular to the other line, what will happen to the slopes? The product of the slopes is going to be -1. So those types of steps you should analyze. Okay, first I should find out the slope of the perpendicular line. I know a point x1, y1 on the other line. This is the formula I use. So these type of steps you should analyze for the questions which are tough. So I want you to use up the 15 minutes in that manner. Is that clear? Yeah?
Yes,
Are you
sir.
getting the point? See, people, as I told you, whatever we tell you here, whatever orientation we are giving you today, for you to solve the paper, it cannot just happen in one attempt. You should start applying them. Say, for example, are you done with your preparatory or you have one more preparatory?
Yes, sir.
You're done with
No,
your
miss.
preparatory.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the next is the final examination directly. Correct? When is
Yes.
it gonna be?
13th Feb.
1/3, 13th Feb.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So you have again 20 days of time. So in case you're practicing some sample papers at home, I know you're done with your preparatory. So, but there might be some set of people who are practicing some sample question papers at home. So when you are practicing these sample question papers at home, say for example, you're doing 3 papers per subject before you actually enter the 13th examination. So if you're doing 3 set of papers, I would want you to apply whatever we have told you to all the 3 sets, and you will surely see an improvisation from the first paper on to the third paper. So improvisation, it can be in terms of time management, it can be in terms of presentation of your answer script, and again, if it's being evaluated either by yourself or you take a help of your friend, you write 3 papers, tell your friend to evaluate your friend's paper, you evaluate. I think that would be a better way to do it. So you could definitely see some improvisation. Clear? Provided that you follow what we are saying or what guidelines we are giving. See, it's not just about the knowledge that you have in your head. As Sir told in the previous session, it is also important how we represent what is in my head. So that is where we come into the smart way of answering scripts. Clear? It's not only about hard work now, you got to be smart also. Okay? So that was about the reading time, how you utilize it and how you are making sure it's used in an effective way. So after going to the reading time, you start answering the paper. So again, before going into the actual mathematics part, I would want to give a little more tips where we try to achieve more and more marks. Now, how many of you have an issue with time management? Can you please raise your hands? that you feel shortage of time is a problem? Okay, one, two, three, four. Handful of people. I'm surprised. Yeah, I thought at least half the class will raise the hands. There is time problem. But one of the common complaints that I see amongst the students is when I ask my students, what happened? How did the paper go? Sir, time kadme agoito. Time was the problem. So that's one of the very common excuses that are given. Correct? I'm not sure when you go back home what kind of excuses that you give in case the paper was not well. I'm not telling that you're supposed to give an excuse, but there can be a chance for an excuse, right? And one of the chances or one of the comments that you can pass for the or one of the excuses that generally is given is time management. I had shortage of time. I couldn't complete it on time, or the paper was difficult. These are the only two excuses is what I feel. Clear? The third last excuse is I was not feeling well, headache and all. Yeah, that excuse would be the last excuse maybe. But anyways, so the next tip I'm gonna give you is for the time management. So people who are facing time issues, that you feel that no, this 3 hours is not enough, more time was to be given. Okay, so for those people, again, some tips I'm gonna give. Clear? Now, we know that we are attempting for 80 marks, no doubt in this. So out of this 80 marks, clear? So depending on how much you have prepared for the examination, depending upon how much you have prepared. So let me take an average, some XYZ student, and that XYZ student, say he or she definitely knows the answers for 50 to 60 marks. I'll keep the range as 50 to 60 only. I believe most of you fall in this category. So when I say out of 80 marks, most of the students fall into a category wherein they definitely know 50 to 60 marks of this, or say at least 50 marks. I think all of you want to agree with this. You definitely know 50 to 60 marks out of 80 marks?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
definitely. We have prepared in such a way that even though my preparation is not to the most, I definitely know how many marks out of 80 marks. 50 to 60 marks is definitely known to me. No doubt in that. Now my question is, say examination, we are obviously writing an examination only. Now, say for example, it's not an examination and you're solving something. Now, when you're solving something, clear? If there is a two marker, and if you know what the answer is, I mean, when I say if you know what the answer, you know how to solve, you know how to reach to the answer. Clear? So, will you take minimum time to solve it, or will you take more time than expected? You take lesser time, right? You take less amount of time to solve the problem. So what I'm trying to say here is, this 50 to 60 marks, which is already known to you, totally you have 3 hours. This 50 to 60 marks, which is already known to you, will you take like 2.5 hours to complete it, or probably you will complete it in say 2 hours? What do you feel? 2 hours or less than 2 hours, or you want to answer it as 2.5 hours? 2.5 hours is what you will take to answer this 50 to 60 marks that you already know.
2 hours
Good.
approximately.
Correct. 2 hours or less, depending upon your speed of writing, maybe. Depending upon your speed of writing. So the 50 to 60 marks, which I definitely know, I am sure that say I finish it in say 2 hours. I'm sure I'll be finishing it in 2 hours. So what we are making sure now is, whatever is known to me, that is how I started off with. Whatever is known to me, I want to make sure that it's definitely in my pocket. I don't want to lose something out of 80 marks which was known to me and I could not write it because of excuses like say time management, or I had a headache, or whatsoever is the reason. Yeah. So those 3 hours, you're not supposed to give any kind of complaint. You just have to make utmost use of those 3 hours. So my concern or my suggestion is, out of 80 marks, what I definitely know has to be in the paper. So no one is actually complaining about time management, because what I actually know, I definitely don't want to miss on that. So if I miss out on what I actually know, it's actually like stupidity or dumbness, right? Do you agree with that? Correct? Something which is
Sir.
known to me, and if I don't pick it up, it's actually stupidity. Correct? You should not do that. So when you start writing your paper, as sir told you, write down the correct question number. One, you know, two, you know, you write. Okay. Three, you don't know, just leave it then and there. No thinking time involved. No thinking time. When I say thinking time, you should not think, okay, what might be the step, or if it's say difficult, I don't want you to solve and go wrong. No, please do not do that. Say I know one, write question number one. I know two, write two. Three, I know three. After that, say you don't know four and five, don't worry. Don't leave gap. As sir told you, go to what? Go to the sixth question, say. So say sixth and you write. Say you're done with part A, MCQs. Then I go to say part B. So when I go to part B of the paper, it's all 2 mark questions. And when it's a 2 marker, say for example, I know the first question, I write it. I don't know the second, I don't know the third, it's okay. Go to the fourth one. And then say go to the sixth one, go to the eighth one. You know, only 4 of them, it's fine. Right? Go to part C. Then go to part D. So what are we doing? We are kind of making sure that whatever is known to me, I'm writing it back to back. When I say back to back, I'm not giving any kind of time gap anywhere. So whatever is known to me, I'm making sure I'm writing it back to back. And in these 2 hours, I'm definitely covering the questions which I know, which means 50 to 60 marks is definitely there in my pocket. Probably in this 50 to 60 marks, you might probably say lose 5 marks because of some kind of an error or something. There's always a plus or minus. I'm not telling this has to be the exact range. So these 50 to 60 marks, you're covering up in 50 to us, and we are kind of making sure all of them are represented, say, in initial set of answer script pages. Say, for example, first 8 to 10 pages, you write all of these questions, 50 to 60 marks, and which you know. So what has happened here? Your first 6 to 10 pages, whatever you're writing, one thing we are making sure is I've written all the things which is known to me, which means I'm not missing out on the things which I don't know. And also in the first initial set of papers, your answer script pages, what are we making sure? We are writing things, everything which is correct. And when you write things which is correct, say for example, you go to part A, part B, part C, you keep writing the ones which you know and you do it correctly. So when you keep doing something of that sort, will your confidence level increase or will it decrease when you do something which is always right?
Increase.
It will increase. That is how it happens in sports also. It's not just about studies, people. The human mentality itself is in such a way that when you start doing things in a proper manner over a period of time, you become more confident. So if I say cricket as an example, yeah, I don't know how many of you watch cricket, but I'm sure that everyone knows Virat Kohli. Anyone who doesn't know Virat Kohli? Yeah, your friend is looking around. Will anyone raise hands? So everyone knows Virat Kohli. Yeah, that's fine. Everyone knows Virat Kohli. So she doesn't know it, the second bencher?
Knows them.
Okay, she knows it. You know Anushka Sharma, right then? So there's a female called as Anushka Sharma. Her husband is Virat Kohli. Okay? Okay, anyways, I'm just kidding. Yeah, done people, no problem. Fine. So what I'm trying to say here is, see, even a sports person like Virat Kohli, when he's playing from 0 to 50, right? When he's playing from 0 to 50, he plays a little slow, but what he's gaining out of them, we are not going to the slow part, but what he's gaining a good momentum
Confidence.
and he's gaining confidence. That is why later on he just blasts, or after 50 he's playing with more confidence. So that is what happens. So initial set of time when you're doing something which you know, and if you're good at it, so initial set of pages as I told you, so these 50 to 60 marks you know, and you write it confidently. So what happens when you face things or when you face questions which you already know, for the further questions you will start gaining confidence. There's no doubt in that. Clear? There's no doubt in that. But initial set of things, when I go for the hard questions first, then automatically your confidence level is going to drop out. So we should not allow things to happen. See, it's not just about the knowledge. We are trying to play with the psychology of the mind, be it my mind or be it the person who's evaluating the paper. We have to play, I mean, we have to use our mind to the utmost level so that I have better efficiency. So as I told you, I start writing. 50 to 60 marks is definitely in my pocket. One thing, I'm not losing out on questions which I don't know. So whatever I know, I've definitely written it, which means there's no regret later on telling, oh, I knew the last question, I knew the last but one question which was for 5 marks, but because of time, I did not write it. No, we are not giving those excuses, people. We definitely make sure we are covering what I know, and as I do it, 2 things are additionally happening. One thing is what? I'm slowly gaining confidence. I've not lost my time, correct? time management is maintained, I've written everything that I know. Point number two, I've not lost anything which I know, and because of time, no. So two things are done: time management and whatever I know is written. Third thing is what? You're gaining confidence because you're writing everything you know, and since it's correct, slowly your confidence level builds up. Point number three is done. And point number four is when you do this kind of an answer script. So as sir told you, write down question numbers, make sure the question numbers are right, and if you don't know, just leave it. You can still write it towards the end. But what is important when you write it towards the end, along with along with the question number, please make sure you write correctly, whether it's part A, part B, part C, or part D of the paper. So write part B and then towards the end I'm meaning. So write part B and then write question number 2 and then start answering. Because this is also important. Part A, part B, and the question number along with that is important. So when you do this, I told the point about the confidence, but what is also happening, right? The person who's evaluating your paper, it makes easier for him to correct. So when it makes easier for him to correct, automatically there is a sympathy that is developed. So it's not because you put your photograph or you put a 500 rupees note. The sympathy is not because of that. The sympathy is why? The sympathy is because you're putting on a neat representation. Clear? So when you put on a neat representation, initial set of pages, when your answer scripts has the correct content without too much of scratching. And also, is the scratching avoided here in these parts? Yes, the scratching is avoided. Why is the scratching avoided? Because you're putting down a neat representation. Clear? I mean, you're putting down the answers that you already know. You know how to solve them. So because there's a neat representation, because there is no scratching, because you're writing the correct answers in the first set of papers, the person who is evaluating after 5 or after 3 or 4 pages, what he or she will feel is that, okay, this person is writing everything correctly. So even the further parts, when you go to the questions which you have not done it correctly, there are chances, I'm not telling that this will happen, there are chances that he or she, even though you have done a minor error, they will kind of neglect that error. They'll tell like, okay, these many pages this person has done it so neatly. So let me not cut marks because you have shown a neat representation until here. That is how the human psychology works. Say something like this. You join as a newbie to the college. So say first 3 months you show a very you portray yourself as a very good student. So what will happen later on? Even though you're doing mischievous things, your teacher will not notice you. Am I correct with that? I'm not asking you to do this, yeah? I'm just telling how it works. So initial set of months, if you are a good student, so later on, even if some mischievous things or even some wrong things are done by you, it's not easily noticeable. Why is that? Because in the initial first 3 months or first 4 months, you've already portrayed yourself as a good person. So figuring out what's wrong in you later on is a difficult task for the mind. So that's what I'm telling you. You're kind of playing with the psychology of the person. Clear? It's not just about the academics. You also have to play, you have to also be smart in a way that you're playing with the psychology of the person. So that's where I'm throwing some light. Clear? So we are not trying to cheat here, we are just trying to be smart. Please keep that in mind. Yeah, I'm not trying to ask you to cheat in any way. I'm just asking you to play a smart game so that we try to get maximum of marks. So that is what will happen, people. Neat representation, correct answers in the initial set of papers. The final part, the evaluator, even though you have done some kind of a mistake, it's difficult for him to figure out because you've already shown that, no, I'm doing everything properly. So it's difficult for him or her to figure out where things are actually going wrong, or even though you're doing things wrong, me as a person, when I'm evaluating, I will definitely have sympathy because you have given me a very neat representation for the initial set of pages. So later on, even if you make a mistake, it's okay. This person has done it good. Let me not cut too much of marks. Let me just cut minimal of marks. So all this will happen when you're this 80 marks category. If you are somewhere less than anything you score less than 70, this all the tips I'm going to work out. But when you cross 70 or 75 and when you're trying to reach 80, the sympathy thing will not come into picture because when you're crossing 75 and when you're reaching 80, right, it goes to different people. It's kind of difficult to play with psychology of all the people because the next person who is evaluating, he knows that he has to like clearly check what are all the answers, where things have gone wrong. But to score anything until 70 marks, until 70 should not be like a great deal. And whatever tips me and sir has given apart from the actual academics part, it is somewhere adding up to plus 5 marks. Close to plus 5 marks is what I say. Apart from what you actually know, if you follow the tips that we are telling you here, you are additionally getting 5 marks due to multiple factors, be it your neatness, be it the answer representation, and so on. Is that clear, people? Or has it become
Sir.
boring? Not boring, is it? Our friend in the second bench who doesn't know Virat Kohli is doing something else. Huh? Fine. See, all these tips, people, you have to start working on. Yeah, it's not that we are giving you a movie show. We're just telling you, giving you a speech out of nowhere, right? All these things are told so that you start implementing them. Only after you implement them, you can start seeing the changes. Okay? Clear? Please keep this in mind. And coming to mathematics, we'll just go. I'll just tell you the split of marks from different chapters. I have the blueprint as well. I'll show you the blueprint. If not this, I'll just check. This is better. Is this visible? Whatever is shown, whatever is written, is it visible or should I go to a different slide?
Clear, sir.
It is visible. Okay. So we just have throughout the question paper 1 markers. We have 21 markers wherein you have 15 MCQs and 5 fill in the blanks. Going to the 2 markers, you have 11 questions altogether, out of which you're supposed to answer 6. So it's almost 50%, not exactly 50%. So out of 11 questions, you're just supposed to answer 6 questions. 3 marker, again you have 11 questions, you're supposed to answer only 6. So my suggestion here is when you go to 2 marker or 3 marker, so we have some smart kids in the class, what they'll try to do, hey, 2 markers, 11, instead of writing 6, they will write 8. Let me not lose anywhere. I'll make sure I'll get all the 2 markers. So in the process of doing that, what will happen is you will lose time for the further questions. Please do not do that, people. So out of 11 questions, write down only 6. And if you're feeling doubtful that something might be incorrect, come to that towards the end. Don't do it in the initial part. I have definitely seen some students who are like, okay, I'll be a little more smart, I'll not lose my marks anywhere. Clear? So what will happen? They will answer out of 11, they'll answer 8 of them. They'll attempt 8 of them. Same way, they'll attempt 8 out of the 3 markers. So what will happen in this process? In this process, there are chances or there are definitely chances that you lose time for the further set of questions. Okay, the last girl, they're just enjoying their time, who's just lying down on the bench. Yeah, she got a tap on the back. Her. You got to concentrate, people. We are not doing this for fun, yeah? Correct? You are spending some time, we are spending some time. So make sure you grab something out of this. Clear? Even though it's not a physical classroom, we can still see you. You can also
Yes,
interact.
sir.
All of this is happening. Okay? Fine. So we have the 5 markers and 6 markers. So each and every part you have choices, but I definitely want you to follow what tip. Don't answer all the questions. Just answer the exact number which is asked for. Go to the next, and then you have extra time later on. Then come back and answer more of them. So please do not follow the pattern of answering more. So what is happening totally out of 135 marks? This is the total number of marks. I'm just supposed to attempt for 80 marks. So we have a good number here. I mean, enough options are given, enough choices are given. So out of 135, just attempt for how many? 80 marks. But the only thing is, in the 1 markers, we do not have any choice. There is no choice in 1 marker. That's the only disadvantage. But it's okay. People who are scoring 70 on 70, are the ones who are falling in this category. They are making sure that there's nothing wrong going in this. Because this is what separates you. The 1 markers are the ones that separate you from the people who are scoring 75 plus and the remaining side of people. So if you want to be in the 75 to 80 category, we have to make sure we are pretty good with the 1 markers, because all other set of questions or all other parts definitely have choices where you will have some option to think around and write the answer. So this was about how many? Yeah, 5 markers. There are 8. You should answer any 4. And the last part, this is going to be part E. This part is going to be part E. And what is going to happen in part E, Andre? You'll have 2 10 markers. So the first 10 marker is 6 plus 4, 6 or 6. So you have a 6 marker. from two different chapters. I'll discuss from which chapters we have the question. Okay, so you have one 6 marker and one 6 marker, and then you have 4 or 4. So totally you have for 10 marks. Again, the 6 marker, I'll tell you the chapters though. It becomes easier. So when I go to the last 6 marker, one 6 marker, is it visible, people, or should I enlarge this or make any changes? Visible?
Visible, sir.
It is
Yes, sir.
visible. Okay, fine. Here we go. So as I was talking about the last 6 marker, I'll explain this process again, what is happening here. So for the last 6 marker, you have either a question from trigonometric functions or you have a question from conic sections. So you definitely know which are the two 6 markers that are gonna attempt, which are gonna turn up. So you can kind of be prepared of what's happening. Clear? Either from here or either from here. Same way for a 4 marker, you have a question either from sequence and series or you have a question from limits and derivatives. So we are pretty sure where it is coming from. But again, we also know about what? We also know about the choice that is gonna turn up. What happens is, in the case of trigonometric functions, they will give you a kind of a complex question, because in trigonometry, complexity is nothing about solving more number of steps, especially in trigonometry, because we just have a limited number of formulas, correct? So we have the 6 trigonometric functions. Apart from the 6 trigonometric functions, we hardly have 3 to 5 formulas, right? We have sine square plus cos square is equal to 1 plus cot square is equal to cosecant square, and then 1 plus tan square is equal to secant square. So we are just playing around with those 3 set of formulas, correct? So what happens in the case of trigonometric functions, if it's a 6 marker, it's just that it's a lengthy question. You have to keep applying one or the other formula at different places and try to reach out. But when it comes to conic sections, it's not about being a lengthy question. What happens, we definitely know there are multiple parameters in conic sections, right? So when I say talk about an ellipse or a parabola, a lot of things come into picture. The lattice rectum, the vertex, the eccentricity, all those things I need to remember. So you can kind of decide from now itself which 6 marker you want to be more prepared. So you can either be prepared with trigonometric questions with complex problem. When I say complex problems, more number of steps involved, or pick up conic sections. And if you're picking up conic sections, what should you be more aware of? Say for example, it's an ellipse. So I should know all the parameters of an ellipse. Correct, there are multiple parameters, right? As I told you, it can be about the symmetry, symmetry about x-axis, symmetry about y-axis. When it is curved upwards, how will it look? When it curved downwards, what's the formula? When it curved this way. So you should just, sorry, this was about a parabola. So you should just know everything basically, conic section. There are more things to know in conic sections, but in the case of trigonometric functions, there's not much to know, but you should solve more number of problems which are lengthy problems, which requires more number of steps to reach out to the answer. Clear? So same way, 4 marker, you definitely know one is from sequence and series and one more is from limits and derivatives. So whatever chapter you're convenient with, you can go accordingly. Now what I'll do is, with this, whatever is given here, let's try to discuss. See, as I told you, 1 marker, there's no choice. You have from each and every chapter, you have at least one question from the 1 marker. It can either be an MCQ or it can either be a fill in the blank. There's no doubt in that. But when you come to 2 markers, how many are supposed to answer? You're just supposed to answer how many? 6 of them.
6.
Now we can start being a little smart. Because if I know this pattern, right, in the blueprint also it's given, this blueprint is available with you. What I've done is, I've just shortened this. I've just made it more in a better way to understand. Because in blueprint, they've segregated in different parts. In blueprint, what you'll be able to understand, what extra information you'll be getting is, I know this is not visible, I'm just telling you. In blueprint, what extra information you'll be getting is, say for example, if I'm getting a 2 marker, I have 2 questions from sets. What the blueprint says is, those 2 questions, which are 2 marker questions, the blueprint will say whether you're getting an easy question, a medium question, or a tough question. So I would want you to refer that as well. Because, say for example, I pick sets chapter. Okay, so what if you want to be in the 60 category out of 80, say for example, you want to land up somewhere from 60 to 65. Clear? If that's your aim, then what happens is, you can pick a particular set of chapters and you can stick on to it, practice more and more of that, so that you're making sure that you're reaching 60. But for people who are definitely looking to score 80, There is no go, because in MCQs we have MCQs from all different chapters, correct? So say for example I pick 6th chapter. How many told? I told 2 questions are here. So 2 questions are done. How many am I supposed to answer? I'm supposed to answer just 6. Then say I pick complex numbers. There are 2 more questions here. So what is happening with complex numbers and sets? Only with 2 chapters, I'm making sure out of the 6 questions, I'm definitely answering 4 of them. If I'm good with this, I hope you got my point, people. So this is how
Yes,
we
sir.
start selecting chapters based on which category do I want to hit. So if I want to hit the 2 markers without making any kind of a mistake, I have sets, I have complex numbers. So if with these two I'm definitely making. And also in your blueprint, it is mentioned which chapters have maximum number of marks. I'll just mention or highlight those chapters. The first chapter which carries maximum number of marks, I'll also tell you the chapter name if this is not clearly visible. The first chapter is going to be trigonometric functions. So that 21 marks from trigonometric functions altogether. 21 marks. Then say for example the second chapter which has the highest weightage is going to be limits and derivatives, which has 16 marks. So there are some such set of chapters which you definitely don't want to miss. Please keep that in mind, people, because one thing is it has a lot of marks or a lot of marks coverage. So you have 21 and 16. I'll just pick the 2-digit numbers, okay? Just to show you how it works. Then we have conic sections for 11 marks. You have straight lines for 12 marks. And say, for example, you have relations and functions for 10 marks. So with this, 30, 40, 50, 60, you're covering 80 marks altogether just with these chapters. But I would not suggest that just do these chapters and go. Don't rely only on them. But what I'm saying, say for example, you have not prepared throughout the year, you have not prepared for the exams well. So at least you know which chapters to focus on, which will fetch you more number of marks. So you can keep that in mind with this blueprint, which is available for you. We'll also make sure that this PDF, whatever is done, will be shared so that you have it for reference. Okay? So with that, as I told, if I pick those chapters, which was one was trigonometric functions, one was relations and functions, then we had when we had limits and derivatives, we had conic sections, and then you had sequence and series. Okay? So with these some set of chapters, again, what I can kind of make sure, see, limits and derivatives, I've got one. Conic sections, no. Then here, trigonometric functions. So I've already got 6 questions here, including complex numbers and sets. All my 2 markers are done and all the important chapters which are highlighted. So what would you do in chapters like sets and complex numbers? You should try to focus more on 2 markers only. Try to focus more on 2 markers. Again, whatever tips I am giving, we are trying to fall, most of the students who want to fall in a category of 60 marks out of 80, somewhere like say 55 to 65 or 55 to 70. But if you are looking for an 80 marker, definitely you have to be prepared overall. I cannot say that I select only these chapters and in these chapters I select only these many marks questions. No, that's not happening. Clear? So depending on where you want to fall, you start picking the chapters accordingly. Now when I go to 3 markers, as I told you, relations and functions, that's my important chapter. I have one there. Trigonometric functions, I have 2. Complex numbers, if I'm prepared, I have one more here. Then you have sequence and series. You have conic sections, limits. Already have enough questions, right? I just had to answer 6 of them. See, which are the chapters I'm picking? I'm just picking the chapters which had more weightage. I'm not picking all the chapters as of now. So, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, it's already in my pocket again. With only these chapters, I have all the 3 markers. And only with these chapters again, relations and functions, I have one 5 marker. I have one trigonometry. Correct? Then say for example, I go to limits and derivatives. So I had to answer only 4 5 markers. 3 are already there with the set of chapters I've picked. I hope you're able to connect, people, how we are planning it out. Yeah?
Yes.
Again, as
Yes,
I
sir.
told you, all these tips have to be followed depending on where you want to land. I'm not, as I've clearly told you, if you're planning for 70 and 75 plus, obviously there has to be more preparation. But if you want to fall in an average category of 50 to 70 marks, then we start following, as of now at least, because we have a limited time frame, right? We don't have enough time frame wherein you can do the entire chapter. So what will we do? We'll start focusing on the chapters accordingly, at least for a month. That's what we are planning. And when you come to the 6 marker, that was already discussed. I have one 6 marker from trigonometry and one from conic sections. Same way 4 marker, one from sequence and series and one from limits. So what
Yes,
we are trying to do here is there are enough chances I can eliminate some set of chapters like say permutation and combination. Then you have statistics. Then you have probability. Probability is an easy chapter. I wouldn't want to miss on probability. It's just a 2 marker. I can easily get it. Clear? So there are definitely some set of chapters you can as of now at least you can afford to miss. Clear? I'm not saying that miss the chapters, don't study. That's not my tell, but because we have a limited time frame for a preparation, we can plan things out accordingly. Clear? So this thing will be shared. Whatever I've done here, I'll be sharing with you because whatever blueprint you have, I've just concised it to a shorter version and I've exactly picked how many markers, 2 markers, how many questions from each chapter. But if you want to deep dive into it, make sure things are more better, what you just have to look from the blueprint is there are 4 categories. Remember, understand, apply, and HOTS. So what happens is questions in these categories in HOTS and apply are difficult kind of questions. So you can figure out, okay, this 2 marker I'm getting from this chapter is going to be difficult. So it says that, say for example, from HOT type of questions, whatever questions are from linear inequalities chapter, all the questions are tough questions that you'll be getting throughout the chapter, apart from the 1 marker you have. There's no 1 mark, yeah. Clear? And what happens with trigonometric functions, most of the questions you'll be getting is an easy kind of question, but apart from the 6 marker. So these things you will be able to analyze using this as well as what I've done here. Okay? So this will be shared, just have an analysis. That's gonna help out. Any questions to ask?
no, sir.
Sir, Virat Kohli, my friend will ask, is it the second mention? No, she's not gonna ask.
Renax.
Okay, now, you know what you're supposed to ask? Second bencher. You're supposed to tell me what your friend told you when she passed the mic. She told something else. You're supposed to tell that, nothing else.
Sir, she told me to ask you who is Virat Kohli.
Oh, I have. Okay, okay. Yeah, he was my childhood friend actually. I'm kidding people. Done? Any questions to ask? No? No questions to ask?
No, sir.
Yeah, sorry, Anushka was my childhood friend. She's from Bangalore, is it? If I'm not wrong? I don't know. I think she's a Bangalore person.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm also Bangalore. Okay, fine. Good to go. Yeah, it was nice interacting. Try to follow the tips. What was given? Clear? And I want you to write at least 3 sample papers. Do it by yourself. Ask your friend to evaluate your paper. Take turns. Write at least 3 sample papers. And for all these 3 to 4 sample papers that you will be attempting before giving your examination, I definitely want you to follow the tips that have been given by us. Because only when you follow the tips and guidelines that we have told you, only then we can see the changes from the first paper to the fourth paper. Have we improved or not? Okay? One last thing before concluding, especially in mathematics, when you're solving, right? Especially in mathematics, clear? Anything that you're solving. So, depending upon whether you're say a right-handed person or you're say a left-handed person, depending upon say right-handed, I'm just giving you a random thing. I'm just giving you a tip that I want you to follow. Whatever tips is surely helpful. So when you're solving, say for example you're a right-handed person, what work do you give for your left hand? Scratching your head, bench, something of that sort. No, please make use of your other hand also. How do you make use of your other hand? See here, when I'm solving any question, just do this: x into x, x square, 1 into x, x into minus 2, minus 2x, 1 into x, x into minus 2, minus 2x, plus 1 into minus 2, minus 2. Then you have again x minus 3. Say for example I solve this, it's x square minus x minus 2. Then you have x minus 3. Again when I'm multiplying x square into x cube. X square into minus 3, minus 3x square. Minus x into plus x, minus x square. Minus x into minus 3 plus 3x. So what is happening when you're using your fingers this way? One thing, we are making sure we are fast. This is few extra seconds which is saving you. And few extra seconds from each and every question is definitely gonna add up at the end of the paper. One thing that we are saving some extra seconds, and what is also happening, I'm making sure I'm correct. Am I correct with that? Because that is what happens, especially in mathematics. One plus or minus, you just kind of lose it. Yeah, you just do one plus or minus mistake towards the beginning, and by the time you reach your answer, you have just lost it completely because it was the initial mistake. So what I definitely want you to start working, it's not just in the examination, when you are practicing for yourself also, please start cultivating this habit, people. Depending whether you're right-handed or left-handed, with this we are definitely making sure we are saving few extra seconds, and I'm also being more accurate. Because you just know saw, right? It's not because I'm fast in mathematics. It's because I've always been using this method. I'm making sure I'm being fast and also accurate. So please follow this tip as well. Done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, people.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.